Today on Locked On Phoenix Suns, a Kevin Durant trade we forgot yesterday that's pretty darn spicy. But first, what should the Suns be learning from the NBA playoffs? Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Phoenix Suns. I'm Brendon, Kleen, a staff writer at Awful Announcing and a credentialed Suns media member. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen here on this Thursday. Don't forget Locked On Suns free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So click that follow or subscribe button. Do what thousands of other Suns fans have already done. Become an everydayer. Get locked on to the Phoenix Suns right here each and every day. We've got a little bit of a grab bag, the Durant trade addendum. We've got a pickup on Ben's sad point from yesterday and lessons from the playoffs. Joining me to break it all down, as always, from the Wild West Valley, my fellow Suns credentialed media member. How are we feeling, Ben Garcia?
I'm good. I will be even better once I find out the Suns are just going to get a haul for Kevin Durant. But for now, I'm okay. I'm stable. I've recovered from the draft lottery. That kind of annoyed me, but I'm over it now, kind of.
Yeah, well, it's going to have ripple effects. The Mavs are looking for a point guard all of a sudden, according to the latest news.
Tyus Jones, come on down.
I found it funny to see all the Suns fans saying that. I mean, I know that they're just trying to wish bad things on Dallas, which I'm all for, but part of me, I'm like, do you guys think they're going to trade him? I think some fans are like, we're not getting anything back here in the Valley for that. That's just, I think that's just their issue.
I think the meme of it is just like, last year, the Suns needed a point guard. Tyus Jones took less. He came here. It was a disaster. And it's like, Tyus Jones, come on down to the Dallas Mavericks and just blow that up too while you're at it. I don't think anyone actually thinks you can get anything from him because obviously he's expiring, but still funny.
All right, let's get to the playoffs, which the Mavericks are not a part of. Neither are the Suns, of course. But you and I have been, as I think a lot of our listeners probably been, are just gorging on this stuff right now. It's been one amazing game after the next, upsets galore. But big picture, I think it's always interesting to take a step back and just think what's working in the NBA right now. I mean, I don't know how many people think the Suns are going to be necessarily a title contender next year, but I think we would like to believe they could potentially push for a play-in, and before long, they'd like to be at least looking at a deep postseason run, and so they should be building a roster that and a whole organization that can do that and can compete with what's winning on our screens every night right now. So I'll let you go first. What do you feel like is the biggest thing you want the Suns to take away and learn from the postseason right now?
That it doesn't have to be all just over. It doesn't have to go into a straight rebuild. The Suns have a clear path, or maybe not so clear. It's obviously pretty murky, but there's a path that might be a little covered up to follow what the Indiana Pacers have done, and even to an extent, the New York Knicks as well. It's different because they're in the Eastern Conference, and it's a little bit less of a gauntlet, but it's less about one or two guys, and it's more about the collective. Sure, Halliburton will hit a game winner, or Jalen Brunson will take over in the fourth quarter, but those teams as well weren't even built through the draft. A lot of the Knicks have one guy in Mitchell Robinson who plays consistent minutes for them that was drafted and molded by the New York Knicks. You look at the Indiana Pacers too. A lot of it is bringing in players. Tyrese Halliburton, Siakam, Nembhard. Outside of like a Benedict Mathurin, it's a lot of guys who were kind of brought into the fold. Now, it's going to be tougher for the Suns to do this, but if you nail a Kevin Durant trade and then you turn that into potentially you get your picks back, whatever that looks like, and then the very next year you turn that into a solid piece that you can get in the draft, your team could be built with, yes, the core of Devin Booker, but I don't know, an OG, a Jabari Smith, a player like that to help bolster this team to where it doesn't have to be so star-centric, but mostly revolve around Devin Booker and the collection of a group. I think what you've seen now too, man, is the super teams are dead, which kind of benefits the Phoenix Suns because they can't get those guys anyways. But I think there is a place that if you nail a Durant trade, nail one or two signings, if you get under the apron, maybe a mid-level exception, like all that stuff is down there. Like it doesn't have to be over. And I know you'll probably go the schematics way of things. That's kind of why I went a different approach. But that's what I see. And I think those paths are in the Eastern Conference, which are a little bit different.
Yeah, I think it's super valid. I mean, I was just looking at the teams while you were talking and kind of trying to trace a little bit in my head of how each of them was built. And what's weird is two of the teams that, I mean, for all we know, might face off in the finals were built by getting rid of Paul George. That's a weird thing where the Thunder end up with Shea and the Pacers ended up with Sabonis, and then Sabonis became Halliburton. So I don't know if PG can, I'm sure the $200 million he's going to take home in the next little while is going to make up for it, but that's also some weird solace he can take. But yeah, it's even the Wolves with, basically punting on Towns for financial reasons, and then they're right back where they just were in the conference finals. I think that is a good lesson to remember. Obviously, the Warriors had to rebuild themselves after losing the same guy the Suns are likely about to lose, KD, and they made a series of trades and everything to return. It helps to have Steph Curry, of course, but it's true. The league is a trades league more than it's ever been. You have to draft that to get your depth, I would say, but you can make some smart moves to fill in around that, and the Suns already drafted their guy a long time ago. He's still here. His name's Devin Booker. So very, very true. Mine would be on the note of Book. And I don't mean this as a negative, but my lesson is to protect Booker, right? And you kind of look at some of these guys, like maybe protect's not the right word, maybe insulate, or I don't know. But like Halliburton is a good example, right? Like he's not a great defender and has limitations. He's not really a, mid-range scorer. He's really a kind of wonky, unorthodox type of scorer in the first place, but he has things that he does well, and they've built a team around that where he doesn't have to defend the best players. Offensively, he can be a table setter. I would say the same thing is true about Steph Curry. The same thing is to a lesser extent true about Anthony Edwards. The other thing a lot of those guys have is they have additional playmakers around them, so they don't have to do it all themselves. I feel like you're kind of seeing where in the past we've obviously talked about how the Suns were just building an old-fashioned version of a team, right? Like the Big Three mold basically was dead, and the Suns tried to reincarnate it, and it didn't work. I think we're really starting to see how you build a team with one or two superstar max-type players. And the way you do it is to get the best possible role players to accentuate what they do well and make up for what they do worst. And I think that if you think about it that way, it's not so crazy to imagine how this team could be pretty competitive with Book. Because if there's anything we know about this Suns team with all the uncertainty, we know what Devin Booker is and what he isn't. You know what I mean? And if you start at that point, I think you can get pretty far with the roster around him.
I would agree with you in a lot of things that you had said, because it's been hard over the past couple of days to try to find a way back, which is why when you had lofted up this idea for a segment, I was kind of like, okay, so let's signal it around keeping Book. And I think a lot of what you and I say goes hand in hand, where Booker can be your one, like he's the one on this team, but is a two in the NBA standards. And if you surround him around the players that fit the mold of him, then yeah, this team can figure it out. Brendon, I know I've said this before, but the Suns are one nailed Kevin Durant trade away, which is a massive if, from being way more entertaining next year and absolutely a playoff team. I think this team can do that. I think they could be. Every year is not the same. Doesn't mean the West is going to get better. The NBA is weird. I think the best thing you can do is put your best foot forward, put a competent team around Booker, and this team can be a playoff team next year. Not second round, not finals, but a playoff team.
Maybe. I mean,
it's hard.
I look at
uphill climb.
Who made the playoffs this year. That feels like a little bit of a higher expectation than I'm going to try to hold on to. But I think a better identity and a more promising future, those are obviously things we hope that they can achieve, right? But I mean, like, to be more specific on mine, I would say getting bigger. Like, Booker is, for a 2, he's not even that big. And he gets hurt from time to time, and some of those soft tissue things. Like, just being huge would help be a more of a Devin Booker complementary type of team. I've used the Olympic book comp. Like, I would be trying to get as close to that. High IQ, big players. Like, that really might be the most simplistic way to put it, right? Like, once upon a time when I didn't know how good Book was going to get, I compared him to Kyrie Irving. Like, I wrote an article saying he could be the Kyrie to a LeBron. Maybe that's still his ultimate destiny for all we know, is being that more of that type of guy. But I think you would look at, in that case, probably like a Jamal Murray, right? Like the type of team that's around him. You got a 6'10" 3. You got a Aaron Gordon at the 4, a beast at the 5 with Jokic, and Brown's a physical dude. Like, that protects and maximizes Jamal Murray, and Book's better than him. So those are some of the things that I've definitely been thinking about, and it's kind of a cool opportunity to start from scratch a little bit and really just say what does a Book team look like? Not a Chris Paul team, not a Kevin Durant team. What does a Devin Booker team look like? We've never really seen it, because the last time that was true, they sucked. I mean, I guess Ricky Rubio and that team was probably what you would say.
That team also wasn't great. They were just really good in the bubble. Like,
they're probably about as good as the Suns are going to be this year, if we're being honest. I mean,
they were fun.
Around
like
500.
They were fun. I think that's the best way that I would put it, is that they were a fun team to watch. And that's what we're looking for next year. Like, the standard for me, because you had just mentioned this, is like, it's not playoffs. It's like, just be more fun to watch and have some sort of purpose and goals in mind and try to achieve those. If you make the playoffs, awesome, but I'm not holding my breath either. I just don't think it's impossible. But
it's not impossible. No, I mean, we got a long way to go before we can say anything with certainty. We know like 2 of the players who are for sure going to be on this roster next season. But let's get to one of the things that will have a lot to do with who is on this roster. Another Kevin Durant trade, adding on to our conversation from yesterday, coming up next. First, today's show brought to you by Wayfair. The days are getting longer, the weather's warming up, and people are spending more time outside, which means it's the perfect time to refresh your outdoor space. Whether you're working with a big backyard or a small balcony, Wayfair has everything you need to make it feel more like you. Wayfair's massive selection of outdoor essentials makes it easy to transform any space into your ideal summer setup. From comfy conversation sets to sleek dining tables and outdoor decor, they've got it all at prices that fit your budget. If you're in Arizona, the whole, it's so sweet and nice to sit out in the summertime. Not quite true, but what it is it's pool time. And that means maybe a little chaise lounge, maybe a little umbrella, easy up type thing. What else? Maybe some, like a hammock? I don't know. What do you guys have? I don't have a backyard that's big enough to have a pool. I have an apartment. Shop a huge selection of outdoor furniture online. Find the perfect thing for you this summer. Get outside with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. All right, Ben, let's keep it rolling here. So I threw this trade idea at you almost immediately after we logged off yesterday, because I honestly was planning to map it out and do it in the show, and I forgot. But it's perfect because we can do it now and spend more time on it alone. This is similar to, I would say, the Durant trades, where I've seen, like, after the Cavs got eliminated yesterday, on Tuesday, people were saying Darius Garland. You know, you and I had talked a while ago about, like, could we see more of a star-for-star swap? You brought one up with Paul George yesterday. People have talked about Trae Young or John Morant or Zion. Like, unlikely, I would say, all of those. But this one is with the Los Angeles Clippers. And I personally don't find it to be quite as unlikely as some of these other ones. And I'll let you tell me if you agree or disagree. Here it is on the YouTube screen for people. Kevin Durant to the Clippers for James Harden, Derek Jones, and Amir Coffey. Now, think of this really as Harden, and I would say include a pick. The Clippers don't have a ton of those. They have their 2027 pick, And then really far out in the future, 2031 and 2032, one of those picks. And then you really can just fill in anything else. Like, they have a ton of different types of salaries. It doesn't have to be what I have up here, which is Derrick Jones and Amir Coffey. You could really fill in with just about anybody. But think of the trade as Harden, some role players, and a first-round pick for Kevin Durant. What are your thoughts?
I like it because now the one thing that needs to happen is like there needs to be some draft compensation involved. If we're giving you Kevin Durant, the Suns need to get back some draft compensation. I don't know what that looks like. Things can change, 3-4 team trades, but I like it because it's a mix of, like, again, my standard is no longer playoffs, like deep runs in the playoffs or championships. But if you're talking about a team that needs a point guard, James Harden, check, who has, if I'm not mistaken, led the league in assists before, at least came close to it in James Harden. And then you add Derrick Jones Jr. and Amir Coffey. Derrick Jones Jr., who is a long, big man and can defend really well and sometimes spotty with his three-pointers, if I'm not mistaken. I have that up right here. So he's 35%. He's like the exact mold of a guy who could shoot a little bit better from three that you would put around Devin Booker. And then you're talking about a lineup of a Nick Richards, Derrick Jones Jr., Ryan Dunn, James Harden, Devin Booker. Like, it does scratch the itch a little bit when it comes to competitive standpoint. And you bring James Harden home to Arizona, where he went to college. Listen, we know his playoff failures, but we are not talking about this like winning a championship. We're talking about this about keeping the team afloat and getting something for the future. And Derrick Jones Jr. and Amir Coffey, mostly Derrick Jones Jr., do fit that mold. I think Derrick Jones Jr., like, I think Jabari Smith, I think his peak is like what Derrick Jones Jr. was to the Mavs last year. Like, I don't think it's an insane peak. And so if he's 27, and who knows, you could use that contract to trade later on. Or maybe the next year. What if James Harden is awesome and someone wants to trade for him? You could move him. He's got another year on that deal.
That's the thing. So this is more of a treading water trade, right? Like, if you get the 2027 pick from the Clippers, for instance, like, you're giving them Kevin Durant. I would imagine he'll be pretty good even for 2 years from now. And that pick's going to be mediocre at best, you would assume. Kawhi, he got through the season. Like, he'll at least be playing some games for them. That's not an awesome asset to get you some sort of young blue chip piece. And Derrick Jones is already 27. Like, he's not really getting better. He's in his prime. He is what he is. He's a super, reasonable player to have around. Yep. And they don't really have like an awesome recent draft pick of their own. So to me, the whole thing is treading water more than a lot of the other deals we've talked about, because Harden is the single best player far and away that we've ever talked about potentially getting. But it's also, what do you do with Harden after that, right? Because he has a player option for this upcoming season. You would basically, to make this trade happen, he would have to opt into that. I believe you could extend him, or you could, wink, wink, we'll sign you next summer. But like, what does it really accomplish to have James Harden around for a little while? Would you maybe try to flip him at some point in the future?
So that's the point.
Do you really want to take that risk? Like, that's where things get a little hairy with this one. Is Harden's a great asset because he's good, but he's not getting you closer to the next great Devin Booker team that we've been talking about for months at this point.
Him alone is not, but that's another aspect that I kind of hovered over, is you could get James Harden and just immediately flip him. He makes $30 million a year. Someone might be so inclined to take that from you, give you a pick. Maybe, obviously you have to add, salaries have to match in I guess in some ways.
At that point, it's less so like just so we're being as specific as possible. It's probably less of flip him again and more, this becomes a 3-team trade. Right?
Yes.
I mean,
and the Suns get more draft capital. But if you could get Derrick Jones Jr., Amir Coffey, and you end up with probably three first-round picks, and it depends what they are. It depends how far away they are. Like, I might be in on that. But also,
at that point, though, it's like, I don't think teams are really giving up a heck of a lot for James Harden. Like, he just had, like, the Suns are one of the unique teams that, he just crapped the bed and he's 35, about to hit free agency. I think that's a really tough spot to be in unless you're a very select amount of teams.
what's your idea? Well, exactly. What's your idea of what you think you can get back? Like, I'm not saying they're going to get back Jabari Smith, Cam Whitmore, and 2 first-round picks, but like,
well, exactly.
Could you
then
get
that's my
salary
point
filler
is
and 2
if the
first-round
trade
picks?
yeah, well, then if the trade becomes Derek Jones, salary filler, and 2 bad first-round picks from some team that's desperate to get Harden, I'd rather just do a different trade, right? Like, so that's sort of the thing is like with Harden being the most valuable part of it, probably to the Suns because of that treading water and whatever, that just makes it a little bit tricky. Like he's more valuable to them than probably a lot of other teams because the Suns do seem a little desperate to be competitive next season. But then you're probably just back to having the same conversation next summer where you go, well, how are we going to how do we turn the page and reset around Book? Like that it's just that's where I get hung up on this one.
Also, if we're talking about if we're believing Gregory and Ishbia about what the next Suns team looks like, that is just competitive. I don't know if James Harden fits that mold. Like, no, I don't.
Probably not.
The only reason why I think they do it is because big name Arizona State connection. That's it. And I do think Harden would want to be here. Yeah.
He would want to be here.
It's not my favorite trade. Like, let me just throw that out there. It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite. I've seen some other ones that I dislike.
There's also a way to get to get KD to the Clippers without including Harden. But again, like they just have a lot of role players. And so there's not the type of, hey, this is a young depth piece that can get better, which is just mostly my priority with a lot of these trades. So like Bogdanovich and Powell and Zubats and things like that. It's like maybe Zubats, but the rest of it, I don't care.
You want to talk about leadership issues? That conversation getting brought up. Imagine Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard on the same team. Oh man, whether it's fair or not, people would be talking about that every single day. Two of the problem most is people don't talk about superstars. The Clippers. If you throw Kevin Durant there, they do.
Probably.
Who's better at that point, the Clippers or the Lakers?
It's a good question. I would probably go Lakers just because of the Kawhi question mark, but.
Well, that's a good point. We're not locked on Lakers or Clippers, but it's just an interesting exercise.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few teams that I would root for if Kevin Durant went there. Because I don't mind them.
I do think, I would be hoping for the best for him if he ended up anywhere in the East too, because at that point, what do I care? I think the Clippers are they feel like a team who could be, they're just in such a weird spot as a team. So I could see them being desperate enough to try something, but it's hard for me to find one that I think the Suns would say yes to, I guess is the way I would put it. But let's get to our final topic of the day, which is a little bit of a downer, but it's going to be a good conversation. And I promise you, I will be plenty optimistic within it as well. Ben brought up yesterday as we were talking about trades and everything, like in the aftermath of the lottery with Dallas and Philly jumping up, like, wow, those were the other two teams we said the Suns were in this like doom spiral with, and they just got a bright ray of hope with the lottery going their way. Does that mean the Suns are at rock bottom? So we'll talk it out next. All right, Ben, let's close it out. You brought this up, so I'll let you explain and set us up a little bit. But the Suns were part of a pretty disastrous trio in the NBA this year, and then the other two pieces of that trio suddenly might have escaped the bottom of the NBA because they're about to get two awesome young prospects on their team. So does that leave the Suns just fully at the rock bottom of rock bottoms in the league?
A player that I didn't think we were going to talk about, well, obviously, I don't think a lot of people have talked about, but obviously we don't talk about here, that I thought for sure was going to be a dark horse trade candidate, and I thought I would have put my money on him getting traded, was Joel Embiid. But now that you're the 76ers, like, who cares if Paul George is a terrible contract? You already had one of those with Tobias Harris for years, but you got Tyrese Maxey, and it made it all feel a little bit better. And now with Paul George, you could potentially move him to the bench. I don't know how that would work. Or he becomes your fourth asset now. Or You can the options became endless for the 76ers now. Now you can package Paul George and the 3rd overall pick and send him elsewhere, get a player in. Maybe it's Kevin Durant, like just nonsense, right? And so now the options have just been open, whereas before they were crippled, literally and figuratively when it comes to cap or injury concerns with Joel Embiid. And now you're like, if they hit on this pick or if they move it for someone else, they're right back in a disgustingly bad East next year. And maybe Joel Embiid finally makes the conference finals. The Dallas Mavericks went from being the laughing stock, just the pit of all. When you make fun of management, you make fun of that team. And they got Cooper Flagg. And they are now easily a top 5 team for the future and right now. And then there's the Suns. Those were the only 2 teams that had it worse. Because at least you could trade Kevin Durant. No one's trading for Paul George unless you add that pick to it. The Mavs just lost Luka. You're not recovering from that. The Suns are easily the darkest team right now. It doesn't mean he can't get flipped around. Sports is weird. But I would ask you this. Obviously, like, 1, do you agree with me? And 2, it's okay if we're in this bottomless pit. And it's okay if we're the laughing stock of the NBA right now. The question is not, are the Suns there? The question is, how do we never get back in this spot again? What is the number one thing to not get back into this horrific laughing stock spot again that the Suns are in? It's okay to be here as long as you learn from it. That would be my question to you.
Well, I'll answer your main question first, which is that I don't think the Suns, laughing stock's a different thing. Yes, the Suns are the laughing stock, whatever. That's temporary. Who cares? I think that they aren't in the worst spot in the league. Yes, their picks are, gone for years. And yes, we don't even know what the GM is up to and what's going on with that situation. And they're about to have to get rid of 2 of the big 3 that they were touting just 2 years ago. And all this stuff we know is bad. But Matt Ishbia has not ruined the goodwill that I gave him 2 years ago when he bought the team in this one way, which is that when he bought the team, we all said he is going to, not just us, everybody in national NBA media was saying Phoenix has been this quiet juggernaut, wasted juggernaut of a market forever because Robert Sarver was so bad. As long as that's still true and Matt Ishbia doesn't ruin that, which he hasn't because he's still spending money and still being aggressive, the Wizards, the Hornets, the Jazz, like these teams, I mean, we'll see on the Jazz. They were very good not too long ago. But there's a lot of teams that have just never been able to get out of the bottom of the league. I'm not putting the Suns beneath those teams just because of how the past 2 years have gone. And so that's my silver lining. People are going to want to come here. Jimmy Butler actively wanted to join a situation that we were all like dreading turning the TV on for. So that's what I would say. Yes, Dallas and Philly probably leapt up over the top of the Suns with what happened on Monday night, but the Suns are far away from being these tiny market, poorly managed teams that have been in the bottom for so long. So, and then my answer of how you avoid it is probably the stuff we were talking about in the first segment about the playoffs, right? Like, mimic what's working in the rest of the league, and probably if you're Matt Ishbia, don't operate like you know better than everybody.
Couldn't agree more about the Suns will always be a destination in a warm weather city with Scottsdale and a lot of great things going on here in Phoenix. I'd push back on maybe the Suns aren't worse than those teams, but I would think right now they're on par. Right now that could change, but like Hornets, still got Melo and Brandon Miller and still to have all their picks and, some
make
of the
a serious
Suns
case to me why the Hornets are in a better position than the Suns.
Oh, no, a serious case. Well, you got now injury concerns, but Melo can be an all-star. Brandon Miller has shown sparks. Yeah, but both those guys are significantly younger than Devin Booker. And I don't know
if they're going to be better.
They could be. I don't know. Brandon
think
Miller
they're
showed
gonna
some
be.
sparks. Probably not. But I think that there's a serious case to be made, especially for a team that has all their picks too. And that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
they're
that's
counting
it.
on lottery balls just like they were on Monday. How'd that work
Which
out?
was tough. I agree with you. But at least they had lottery balls. Suns didn't have any.
Yeah. Well, the Suns could get some if
They did. They just
make
slapped the
some
Rockets
moves,
sticker
right?
on
Like
it.
the Suns still haven't traded Devin Booker. Like you could say the Bucks are pretty close, right? But they have
Bucks are there
Giannis, so
too.
it's hard to
Bucks
really
are
make
there
the
too.
case of like why it's so bleak, because either they have Giannis and that raises your floor, or you get rid of Giannis, you get a whole bunch of stuff back for him, and suddenly the future doesn't look so bleak. So that's kind of where I think the Suns are at, where it's like they're not quite at the bottom, and then it'd be pretty easy to raise themselves up past these seller teams, because they'll just hit the panic button and eventually trade Book, and then we won't be saying, oh, there's no future. It'll just be all the crap they get back for Book.
So the one thing, again, I would say, just to not be doom and gloom also, is, hey, man, Rockets had a 1.8% chance. I'm sorry. The Mavericks had a 1.8% chance, completely turned their franchise around. The Suns just get ping pong balls next year, back-to-back years. Hawks and the Mavericks had super low chances and won the lottery. If the Suns are talking about the number 1 overall pick next year, and I can barely tell you the players that are in this draft. I've done very early research on like 5 players, and 4 of them are everyone already knows about. If the Suns become that team, like they could be, and then you're talking about pairing up Devin Booker with some guy next year, and that can happen. That can happen. It's not impossible.
Yeah, they have to get those picks back. The Wizards have their pick next year, and the Rockets have it after that, and then the Wizards again, and then the Rockets again. But, yeah, it's just one move like that away. It always is in the NBA. But, again, the Suns have the added benefit of being a place that a Chris Paul, a Kevin Durant, a Bradley Beal, a Jimmy Butler would choose to go even when things aren't amazing. And so until that goes away, I'm probably never going to say they're worse off than most of these teams. Now, I could eat my words. We have a lot of moves to go this offseason. They could hire Doc Rivers to be their coach in like 2 weeks, and I'll just melt down. But
oh my God,
it's not as ugly as it could be. I could not imagine. That'll wrap us up. Hit follow or subscribe if you have not already. Become an everydayer. One more episode to round out the week as, again, I keep saying it, we got to hear some coaching search news. We got to hear some real names we can parse through. Hopefully that happens before long. We'll catch you tomorrow.